Max here. Max Allen. Max Rants. Love me or leave me, like me or not. I want you to understand something. Voting is not just a privilege, it's your civic duty. If you're a citizen, if you're capable of voting, get out and vote. Especially in Garden City, Idaho, my town, less than 13,000 people, where you can make a bigger apparent splash. Here you are in a little pond, you're a little fish, and your vote's a little splash. Would you rather be in Boise as a little fish in a big pond where you don't even make a ripple? No. I have got a guest with me running for city council, and I'm going to vote for this person. I've just decided, so take that as an endorsement. If you will, introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself. I'm going to back off.
Okay, well, thank you, Max. Max, I'm Wendy Carver-Herbert, and I'm running for Garden City Council. I decided to run for council because I care a great deal about Garden City. In fact, it's not an over-exaggeration when I say I love Garden City. I've been doing some good things in the city for about a decade. I am a involved volunteer. I'm a highly engaged citizen that's been involved in the city on many different levels.
What kind of volunteer work are you doing?
I am a member of the Garden City Public Library Foundation, so we raise funds for the library, the phenomenal programs that the library puts on.
We have a phenomenal library.
We absolutely do.
It's won awards, I believe.
Yes, it has, and we have some fabulous programs for families, children, seniors. Every time that I've done things at the library for the foundation, people come up and just tell us how much they love and appreciate the library. So it's a phenomenal resource that we have here in Garden City. So I'm on the foundation board. I also am a member of the Garden City the Garden City Early Learning Collaborative, and it's an organization that's focused on supporting families and early childcare providers and helping them to understand the significant role they play in helping to prepare young children for success when they enter school. I actually teach ready for kindergarten classes to parents. We have resources. We take them through a lot of different ideas and things that they can do to really just play with their children, interact with their children. We have an initiative that's called Read, Talk, Play. And honestly, if parents of young children could just do those three things with their children on a daily basis, it can make a huge difference in their children's lives and make them better prepared when they enter school.
You're having fun, aren't you?
I do. I love the program. I really do.
I can feel, and I am not going to step beyond my bounds here, you have a genuine love for our city.
I do. I really do. You know, I also have I think what brought me to this point where I gained some experience and got really engaged at more of a civic level, which we all have as a privilege, I think, to live in the city and to play an active role, is I advocated in my neighborhood for some things that we were concerned about, and as a result of that, representing my neighborhood, we were able to get some positive changes that were really good. And so what it did is it introduced me to the city process. Over the years, I have attended more city council meetings, more planning and zoning meetings. I've attended budget meetings. I was a member of the Garden City Boise River Overlay Advisory Committee for a period of time. And there have been work sessions over the years that the city has had with other jurisdictions that have talked about intergovernmental jurisdiction issues. So I've just been really, really engaged in the city and have a good understanding about city government.
Well, let me ask you a question. We vote for you. You're one of the 4 city council members, right?
That's right. There are currently there are 4 council members, and there's 2 positions. They're up for election. Right. So we have an incumbent running.
And that vote is at large?
It is an at-large election.
Because Garden City's too small to put into districts. We are a district.
That's true. That's very true.
So let's assume you got elected in a landslide, okay? What are you bringing? You know, what ideas do you have for the city? Where do you see us 5 years from now? What do you bring to the table?
Well, I think certainly because of my involvement in the city, I believe that the city that we create really should be driven very much by the people who live here. One of the things that I think that makes a big difference is we are a city in transition. When you particularly look at the east side, what we call the east side, which is west of Chinden or west of Glenwood and then south of the river, a lot of that area is in redevelopment right now, and it already has begun to grow and develop in its own character. Would love to be able to continue to support that as we can. But one of the things
can we do that and preserve the greenbelt?
Well, I think the greenbelt is one of the most important assets that the city has, and so we absolutely should be looking at ways that we can enhance it as we can. Look, I think we really need to be probably trying to step up a little bit in some education efforts, perhaps, because it is a multi-use path. So bicyclists use it, walkers use it, people on scooters, people on roller skates. And that was what it was always intended to be. But as it gets more and more crowded, there are some greater opportunities for conflict. So I think there are things that we could be doing to maybe try to eliminate that to a certain extent.
How about banning electric scooters? I was on the greenbelt. I walk with a fairly strong gait, but my strokes have left me a little bit balance challenged. Mm-hmm. And I'm enjoying the greenbelt and the rushing river and kids on the side of the trail. And these electric scooters, the people who ride them have obviously no training on a scooter. They have no training in life. They have no consideration. And I'm afraid, they're going to hurt somebody. If I were king of the world, I would ban electric scooters everywhere. That's your thoughts, any ideas? So my opinions are not necessarily those of my guests. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I think that's your comment is certainly shared by, I think, many people in the city, and I think that's one of the things we have to continue looking at. I do know that the city has already been involved in an interjurisdictional process of establishing common rules and expectations and laws across cities, because as we all know, the Greenbelt stretches all the way from Lucky Peak all the way out to Eagle and eventually on out into Star. And so the cities have already gotten together and worked very hard over a period of time to come up with some common rules and laws around that. And so I think what I see is there could be some more educational opportunities that we could be doing, perhaps trying to engage our Garden City volunteers who volunteer at the police department more from a awareness campaign to be out having a presence on the green belt. Perhaps we try to engage with some of the bicycle shops and skate shops, and perhaps helping to talk about the safety and awareness. I think it's about citizens as well. Obviously, you've been out on your own, but sometimes we see people out walking 4 deep across the green belt, or allowing their dogs on their leashes that wander all over.
It's a case of common courtesy.
It is common courtesy, and I think there's more that we could be doing to try to raise awareness.
You brought something to mind. Police volunteers. Now, in Singapore, which is my other home, the police department has, they call it the auxiliary police. And these are people in white shirts instead of blue. Mm-hmm. They have had some training. They don't carry a gun. Mm-hmm. And their job is to help the police with little things like, here's a ticket for jaywalking. Stay out of the street. Why are you spitting on the floor? The little things. Mm. Could we have something like that, or do we? I don't know, because we have a great police department.
Yes,
I would
do.
say we are Idaho's finest. All 26 officers.
We have a phenomenal police department. I think it is something that the city is proud of. I think that our men and women in blue deserve a lot of credit for the work that they do.
So let's give them men and women in white who can patrol the greenbelt.
Well, one of the things I would say is the city does already have volunteers. My husband actually is a volunteer with the police department. There's a fine line that volunteers can walk. I mean, I know that the department would not want to do anything that would put their volunteers in any great danger. But what the volunteers currently do today is they do walk the green belt, and they look for things that need some attention along the way. I do think, for example, Boise does have a program where they have their ambassador program. So they have little electric cars or their golf carts that are kind of decaled up, and they go up and down the green belt and really just trying to raise awareness and a presence. Again, I think it's something that would be well worth exploring, having conversations with our police chief, and determining whether there could be some ways that we could use our volunteers in really more of an informational and more of an awareness basis, and then obviously the policing is left up to our officers. But I think because what the city did was worked with other jurisdictions to create the basis for expectations of what can be happening on the Greenbelt, I think that's not the end of the conversation. I think it's a conversation that we'll continue to have, because there are more and more people that are moving here. There are more and more, not just to Garden City, but to surrounding jurisdictions using the Greenbelt. And I think potentials for conflicts and areas that we might have to look at some traffic calming options. And as I said, I think it's going to have to be an ongoing conversation. This is not just this is it, this is all we're going to do.
What do you see as Garden City's number one priority? They got 20 things lined up they want to do, but they can only take one right now. Mm-hmm. What would that be?
Well, I actually did a survey toward the beginning of the campaign where I sent out a text survey to Garden City voters asking them what they thought their top issues are in the city. And so the top issue was development and growth, then followed by traffic, then followed by housing affordability, followed by property taxes, and then the Greenbelt. Love or concern about the Greenbelt and parks, wanting more access to that. So I think the city is made up of citizens, and I think that when we think about priorities, we should really be looking to those things that are important to our cities. I think when we think about development, one thing I think the city can do is having a plan. Well, it starts with its comprehensive plan, which the city has. It already has, I believe, a pretty good layout or idea of the vision that we have with the city. But I think it's time to take another review of that, engaging our citizens to taking a look at that, and then actually making sure that our zoning code is actually in support of that and helps to drive that vision.
Zoning code. Now, I'm going to throw you a hardball. Mm-hmm. Not a spitball, hardball. What I love, and Garden City people love about our city, is the quaintness. We don't have a downtown like Eagle, mm-hmm. but it's a quaint little town. And development, especially high density housing, stands to destroy that. The idea of putting up 6 and 8 story multi-condo or whatever's, or even worse yet, going Title 8. I have a problem with that. Mm-hmm. A lot of people do. Now, I'm old, so, the rest don't care. I'll be dead soon anyway. But as a voter, as a citizen, how do you plan to address the fact that right now, as you know, there are applications for rezoning so that they can build high-density housing on a low-density infrastructure?
Well, I think the rezoning, that I'm not aware that that's actually happening right in Garden City. I think that is happening in other places around us. Again, I think it starts with the plan, with the comprehensive plan. What do we really want as a city? What do our citizens want? I've heard a lot of feedback as well. The logo for the city is nestled by the river. Well, how do we create that vision? And I do think that there are areas and ways to address density. The challenge is that the land affordability is becoming very difficult to find, and yet there is such a shortage of housing. So how do we do that?
Because we're landlocked. Right.
And so, there is some vertical desire, but maybe having that in really more strategic locations as opposed to spread out throughout the city.
And at some point, the idea of growth by population is dead. We got only so much land, and if you want to build up, it'll look like the Jetsons neighborhood, and any quaintness will be hidden with a cell tower.
Yeah.
I think I'm glad I'm not you, because you got a challenge that I couldn't answer.
It's a big challenge, and I do believe, as I mentioned, housing affordability was like the number 3 on people's people who had responded that's something that's really on the mind. And we're talking about people like families. I mean, when I even knock doors, like we're talking about young families or even seniors, about people are just saying, my children are not, my children are not able to stay in the city anymore.
But what can we do, as a city, we're a small pond, right? Mm-hmm. Is there anything at all we can do about affordable housing? And I'm not talking about all these multiple high density things, but how to make suburban life possible.
I think, first of all, having a zoning code that helps support a diversity of housing. So that can mean like duplexes, townhouses, more kind of lower scale like fourplexes. Like if you think about the North End is actually, smaller homes. There's a mix of different type of housing. And the thing about Garden City's actually existing code is it actually is very supportive of that type of diversity in housing. And so that's something that I certainly am supportive of. I think there's other things too that certainly is being talked about by a lot of different cities that are saying, what can be our part to do for this. And one of them is are there perhaps things that we could offer as bonuses to developers that could encourage them, that they try to, if they could maybe get some maybe a little bit of a density allowance if they provided some level of an affordable type of housing. And I'm not certainly talking at the level of what you talk about these Section 8, but we're talking about just workforce housing.
In Garden City, your suburban home, we'll call it just your, they start at $700,000.
Well, not necessarily.
Well, if you spend
not in my neighborhood.
for $650, you can get a home.
Yeah.
But nothing great. And a $650,000 home means a monthly payment over $3,500 a month, not including insurance and taxes. Who makes that kind of money?
No, it's hard. It's a very difficult time. And
is there anything that maybe this is not something possible? Maybe I'm asking you to use the earth as a fulcrum and move the moon. But is there any hope that our city council and our mayor have any influence at all in at least stifling the rising prices of real estate?
As a private market driven experience. I mean, people have property rights, and part of the reason that housing is more expensive is very, very complex. The cost of building is more expensive today. Cost of the materials, the cost of the labor, the cost of the land.
And everybody who sells his house says, I'm going to cash in.
But going back to, I would tell you, I live on the south side of the river west of Glenwood. So I live in a classically residential neighborhood. And, but we have homes in my part of the city that you can get into a home probably in about the 400s. I just saw one listed not too long ago at $399. And so there is still some possibility.
But after the bidding.
Well, maybe not. Some of these things have been sitting on the market for a while. So I think, a lot of this is just market driven. And I think that we have to continue, talking with housing experts, talking with other jurisdictions, talking with private industry, and seeing if there are things that we can do to try to help drive that. But one of the things I think can help that is by having, is by being able to provide for areas where there is definitely density in the right places.
Well, I'll tell you what, we got about a minute left. I was trying to write something, but you can't write on a photograph with a pencil. Wendy Carver-Herbert. It's a hyphen in there, right?
It is, yes.
Wendy Carver-Herbert wants your vote, and I want you to vote for her. This is the sort of an insightful, thoughtful person that we need on the city council. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming into my studio, spending some time, and I will put this out at 7 p.m. today.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, kiddo.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
it.